Okay. All right. So I am beyond excited to be welcoming my first guest onto the podcast. So this is a really special episode, you all. Our guest today is one of the realest, gentlest, yet fierce at the same time. I don't know how she balances that. Humans that I have ever had the pleasure of meeting. So let's welcome Jasmine. Is it Jasmine or Jasmine? I want to make sure I'm
It
pronouncing
is
it.
Jasmine. Jasmine is my artist name. Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Mhm.
I
But it
saw
is
that and I was like,
Jasmine.
let me make sure I have not been mispronouncing her name all this time.
Not at all.
So Jasmine is a poet, multidisciplinary creative, and educator. Born and raised in Lafayette, Louisiana, Jasmine believes that creating art and writing poetry is alchemy. She states that liberation is my language. She is also the author of 2 poetry books, Scraps to Food and Ma's Words, both paying homage to our ancestors, truth-telling, and expressing gratitude for the journey she's walked thus far. She accepted her calling as a poet in the hopeful spring of 2016, and she's been writing ever since. Jasmine received her master's in educational policy and leadership with a concentration in student affairs from Marquette University. Her journey has taken her to many countries and performance stages with the intention to share her messages of love, balance, grief, joy, contentment, and spirituality. Jasmine serves her community as a social emotional learning specialist in a middle school while maintaining her divine purpose as an herbalist and root worker. So without further ado, I welcome Jasmine Babineaux to Decolonize to Thrive.
Yes, I'm so happy to be here. I'm excited. Thank you for having me as your first guest. It is an honor, honestly, truly, and I'm excited to see how your podcast and everything continues to grow.
Thank you.
Of course, of course.
Yes, the honor is all ours.
Listen, so I'm going to start with a poem.
Okay.
And then we can chop it up. How does that sound?
Sounds perfect.
Okay, so this is an excerpt from For Our Home. It is in my poetry book, Ma's Words, and I'll just do a little bit from it. We're living in hell, but all the flowers bloom. Moon is our only comfort. Sun delivers joy. Our dreams ascend into an abyss of hopeful realities when we are safe from our daily suffering. The aggression in their mistakes is exhausting. Too many murals to paint, too many names to recite. We're living in hell, but all the flowers bloom. So yes,
wow.
That is For Our Home.
That is powerful.
Thank you.
That is powerful. So if you don't mind, before we get into some of the questions, that statement, that line, we are living in hell while the flowers bloom. Can you expound on that a little bit? I know it's art, but if there's anything you can share, that really resonated with me.
Yes, I remember writing this poem and being like feeling like we live in such like a beautiful, like aesthetically pleasing world. You know what I'm saying? Like the flowers, nature itself is beautiful. Like God's creation is beautiful. And yet people, we bring destruction to this world. We set fires ablaze, like even our reactions and actions have negative impacts on the world that we live in, yes. I question, why does California have so many fires all the time? Like, why does Louisiana have so many hurricanes? Like, it's consistent, and we, the answers are, I hope we get into that in our conversation today, but that's where that came from. Like living in such a place where like there's so much chaos and destruction, yet it's still beautiful, yet things still grow here, yet still, come from the earth. So, and I think during that time it was so much like turmoil going on, like politically, socially, right. And For Our Home, it was like, I thought of like James Baldwin as I wrote it. Like, I feel like his Giovanni's Room. And I was like, how can I make a Giovanni's Room possibly for the Black collective? So that's kind of,
absolutely.
That was like my inspiration with that one.
So powerful. I'm looking forward to this conversation as we kind of deconstruct some more of what that poem means. So I want to talk a little bit about how we met first. And So Jasmine was a teacher at a school that I previously worked at, and we were partnered together. She started, it wasn't the beginning of the year, it was a little bit after, and she was supporting for a teacher who was currently on maternity leave. And my initial interactions with you, Jasmine, I would say of what led to you being my first podcast guest is that the impression that you left on me was one that I couldn't forget. I thought that you just had such a positive energy. When I looked at the way that you interacted with students, it was from a place of authenticity. And you were not willing to step outside of that version of yourself. And I think students understood that. I think they respected that. And I know that it really, like I said, left an impression on me. So the mindfulness, I remember you bringing that into the classroom. And I mean, these are middle schoolers, 8th graders. They're not trying to do this yoga and mindfulness, but so, you know, of course, there's a little grumbling at first. And then after a little bit, it's, where's Miss Babineaux? What happened to the mindfulness, the quiet? And when you transitioned out of that classroom, that was something that they missed. And so you make an impact. And I hope you know that on students, you made it on me. And I just think you're an incredible educator. So thank you for all that you are still doing in your role as social emotional learning specialist. And I'm excited to hear more about you. So let's go ahead and start with talking about decolonization. As you know, the purpose of this podcast is really to uncover what does it mean to decolonize our lives? What does it mean to take the journey of peeling back the layers of our identity in a way that, and it may bring up discomfort, and it is the road less traveled. So we would love to know and hear from you how you describe decolonization. What does that mean to you?
Decolonization, I don't think I can describe it without saying Sankofa. And like, you know, going back and fetching it, you know, going back and fetching everything that was once ours, that was lost, that was diluted, that was literally like taken from our spirits, trying to beat it out of our spirits. Like decolonization means, like, to me, like doing away with every system, every single system, like the criminal justice system, that legal system, the education system, like even the public transit system, like undoing everything, like even redoing neighborhoods. It's like really uprooting it all and starting anew. It really is, because it's like, I think decolonization is liberation for the people. It puts the power back into the people's hands and saying, like, you are the sole governing force of your physical body, right? Yes, spirit lives, the divine lives, the universe lives, all of that. I think decolonization is like unturning like what humans have done that have like I said earlier, like caused so much chaos and confusion, and like listen and making it anew, you know, like reparations is a part of decolonization, you know, giving back ownership, giving back land, like restoring as you do that is all a part of decolonization. Like changing how you speak, you know what I'm saying? Like opening up your vocabulary, opening up your mind to truly understand the spiritual experience that you have as you have a physical experience, you know, like we're more than just physical bodies. And I think decolonization is like, you have to, I don't know, you got to dig deeper and ask the questions why. And
it starts with the question. That's right.
It starts with the question, you know, and on a personal level, I really think decolonization is like self-discovery. It's true, genuine self-discovery. Who am I without labels? Who am I without like social constructions? Like, who am I outside of like what I do and what I do and who I am for people? Who am I as a single force? Like so yeah, I think that's how it is, you know, with the collective. And then personally, decolonization is deeply personal as well, because the work can be done. And you've seen this, because where we were working before together, you saw how it was like the individuals are shifting, but
the organization
wasn't shifting.
Absolutely.
You know, and that causes a dissonance.
It does. Absolutely. I agree.
It causes a dissonance. Yes.
Yeah. So you use the term Sankofa Can you explain what that means?
Yes. So Sankofa is a word that means go back and fetch it. And when you see the Sankofa, you'll see it as it's a Sankofa bird. So it's a bird that's like upright and like looking to its back, basically. Like if you ever saw a duck or a goose or any type of water bird go and get like a piece of food, that's what the Sankofa bird looks like. And it's to go back and it's for the Black diaspora, you know, going back to all of our ancestors' beginnings, you know, and taking what they did, their prayerfulness, their devotion to spirituality, to their family, to self, you know, development, and using that in our present. I will also say, like, I'm watching the movie Sankofa right now, and if anybody watches it, I'll say this, like, it's a lot. It brings up a lot, and it's not what you think when you go. Well, it wasn't what I thought. Okay. That's what I but I've been watching it, and it's like hard. But one of the reasons too, Sankofa is important because like you can get rebuked by elders, and in a way of saying like go back, like go figure it out. You know, like you want the answers in the present, you have to go back. Like
I love that.
Everything, go back. You know, like not to say the past, but like basically how I like receive it is like go back to them. You know, like
back to your ancestors, back to your roots.
Yes, 100%. 100%.
Thank you for breaking that down for the podcast community. I want to make sure everyone understood the meaning behind Sankofa. And I think that is so in perfect alignment to what decolonization means. So I appreciate you bringing that back to the forefront. What factors do you think have shaped your desire to go back or to decolonize? What were some of the experiences in your life that you think led you down that path?
I will say, do you want the short answers or do you want like
give us everything. We want to.
Okay. Yes. I love that. So I will say grief. Like I lost my grandfather when I was in undergrad, and I wasn't living in Louisiana because that's where I'm from. So I wasn't living there, and I was in school. And I remember like literally driving down maybe 2 hours from where I was going to school to get on a plane to go to Louisiana because he was passing away. And so that wanting to know more of like who his parents were, who their parents were. And on the same for my grandmother's side, like I was a kid who I remember going to family reunions. Like family is very important to me. And for a while I had this strained relationship with that. And it was them, like it wasn't my physical relatives like pulling me back emotionally and like going to therapy and getting the help that they need to love on me. No, it was my spiritual ancestors pulling me back home.
Wow.
In like things would happen in my life, Ina, and it would be like so synchronic, like the friendships that I was losing and the relationships, like romantic relationships I was losing. And it was stuff that I was praying for to be revealed, you know. Spirituality has always been a part of my life in some way, form, or fashion. I'll just say like, it's only gotten deeper.
Okay.
And so that was another reason why I was like, I need to go back, you know. And now that both of my maternal grandparents have passed, my grandmother passed this past August, like I feel like the only way I can be closer to them specifically, like those ancestors that I do know, like personally, like they raised me, is through God, you know.
Wow.
And that's
powerful.
And I'm telling you, and I say that like not out of a place of a dependence for them and everything. It's like, just to put it plainly, like my mama says, like nobody loves me like them. Nobody. Yeah. And that's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, that's so many reasons why I was like, I need to go back. So many reasons. And the ones that I shared are like just the ones that stand out in my mind. But there was probably like little moments when I knew like this is divine, you know.
Definitely. So you spoke about going back and digging deeper into your spiritual identity. And being able to connect with your ancestors in a way that you feel close to them. They are in some ways even guiding you through this process, which really resonates with me because I lost all of my grandparents before I turned 10. And I've always felt like that was something that was missing in my life. You need that wisdom, you need that guidance. And so how do they, in your opinion, how do you get messages from them? How do you connect with your ancestors? And what ways do you feel them present in your life?
I love that question. I will say, Nina, you always had really good questions. And I think that's how you got to know me best, because you just would talk. So, but anyway, I write, like I write my prayers down. And I think I've been doing that for even before, I would say, like, I've always written them down in some capacity. I just had a conversation with myself in my head anyway. And they know me, you know what I'm saying? And I make it known when I'm talking about them. Like even now, like I'm evoking their spirits, like I'm talking to them. I want them to hear me speak about them, you know?
I love
and
that.
So just talking to them, like when I'm praying, saying their names, like it's very important in my spirituality to know my ancestors' names. So now I know I know more of my maternal ancestors' names than my paternal. That's for different reasons. However, I make sure to, say their names. So that's also important in connecting with them, saying their names. I would say having an altar has also been very important to me. I was in Milwaukee for 2 years, and I created my first altar when I started grad school. That's when I really was like, okay, I'm going to have an ancestral altar, because it was crazy because me and my friends were also on this like spiritual elevation journey at the same time. And we, we're learning from each other too. So I have an ancestral altar, and then I have a personal altar for divination. And I feel both of those help me connect with them. I truly believe like having their photos up, like is everything. It's really everything, honestly. And then my grandfather, this is something funny, but he used to jiggle change in his pocket when I was a kid. Like I used to be like, Papa, can you stop? Like, but that was his anxiousness getting to him. But I didn't know that as a kid. But now I do. And now I keep like a mason jar full of change just for him, because it's stuff like it's the little things, like another thing, like my grandmother and my grandfather both have poems that I wrote specifically for them. And I don't know if it's me or this is how I believe people should be loved, but like knowing the little details about them is so important to me. Like I don't know, like I love the details, knowing, I won't get into it more because I will literally go on, but I love learning the details about the people that I choose to share life with.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I've not, you just made me aware of a different way of channeling or connecting with those who have passed. The altar is something that I definitely want to look into. And I believe just having, like you said, photos around is really powerful in helping you to feel more of their presence in your space. And so I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Now, I know that you also, outside of being an educator, are a root worker and an herbalist. So what does that look like for you? And how do you think they are connected to your divine purpose?
I will say it was a couple years ago, and I met this Sangoma root worker, spiritual being in Milwaukee. And we spent some time together. We had this really long conversation. When I say long, like forgot what time it was long, and I had like somewhere to go after. And that was the beginning of root work divination for me. Like that was when I was like, this is mine. You know what I'm saying? It's like, when somebody give, like, it was this type of gift that I knew that I was returning to it. You know what I'm saying? I was returning to it, like, and I did not have all the I wasn't where I am now. And even now I'm still learning, like when it comes to herbalism, I want to know how to identify as many plants as possible and log it in my mind and have a photo of it in my mind so that I can, use it for different foods, or like cannabis is another herb that I believe like we are taking back, as a people, Ashe, like
yes,
in so many ways. So that is another herb that I use, for healing and and also unlearning everything that I've been taught about cannabis goes along with that. So that's fun too, like educating myself where every myth I can like learn how that's not even true. You get what I'm saying?
Exactly. Like, yeah, that unlearning is so important to the going back. Because we have where we are now today, especially as you talked about cannabis, there is so much unpacking I feel like we need to do in order to even be able to experience it in a way that's useful for us. I believe that fully. So that's amazing.
Yes. Oh, and I don't, because I'm gonna keep going. But you asked me about my divine purpose. Yes, I truly felt like I was returning to something, and then I started applying it more. And then I had an incident. Because I'll say this: there's always gonna be an incident or something that reveals something to you. Yes. And it's not to harm you, but to show you something. And I'm telling you, so I was seeing somebody at the time, and I was, at the same time getting into my divination practice. And that was very important. Yeah. And this was when I was dating my spirituality. Let's say that I was dating. Okay.
I like that. Dating your spirituality.
And I was dating somebody, and my altar was in my room. They had access to it, what I'm saying, like too close access. And my tarot cards were there. And I remember them playing with my cards. And after that, I put them back on my altar, life went on, da-da-da-da-da. And then I tried to come back to them, and I couldn't even, we called them, when you putting the cards out, it's a spread. So I couldn't even do a spread. Like I didn't even immediately, like literally immediately, I was like, yeah, I gotta throw these away. Like there was no thought to even back to that situation. Like, cause I knew,
So you just had a knowing, like a feeling just came over and you just knew it.
I had to throw them away. And when I consulted, you remember I told you I met with the person and we talked for hours. Right. And she was heavily into divination and Reiki. And she was a Black Buddhist, probably one of the first Black Buddhists I met. And because of that, I was called to learn things about Buddhism. And so anyway, she said, oh no, like you'll be fine. Just like, cleanse it and all that. And I said, my people said, I said, oh, okay, that's cool what you said. But my people said, throw them away. And I did.
And you listened.
And I listened. Let me tell you something. When it comes to your benevolent ancestors, and I say benevolent, people who are watching this, people are going to hear this, look up the word benevolent. When they speak to you or give you instructions or guidance, listen, lean in and keep leaning in, because it's peaceful and it's very, very reassuring. And it's like the type of peace that I have, like, I know it because of them. You know what I'm saying? Like stuff happens. Like, I know that I can be calm in the midst of chaos, and people are like, I'm like, I don't know either, y'all. I want to do more. Right. That's like, you are good. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it's a knowing. It's intuitive. Yeah. So and listening to that voice is so important. And I think that we all have the ability to do it, but we have to trust it. And that's a huge hump to get over for a lot of us. But it's powerful to hear you talk about your journey in that way. You said a couple of things that are really, I think, key to thinking about decolonization and the process and how you might arrive there. So grief was like your initial window into that experience. And you said that sometimes there's a crisis or there's something that happens in your life that will cause you to pause, where you begin to think about it and you feel like you have to go back. There's just some uncovering you have to do as to how you got here and why are things this way. And it seems like for a lot of us, it requires us to go through something that is bigger than us. But we start to look for answers. So I really appreciate you sharing that. Relationships or losing someone, or it can be a breakdown in your health. But all of those things are invitations. I like to think of them as invitations to begin the work. And so, yes, I can totally relate to that. Thank you.
I think I heard it. Well, the language that I got for it when I was in the midst of one, but it was like they said it's a dark night of the soul. You know,
yes,
it's Lala Delia. It's Lala Delia. She's amazing. Another spiritual teacher, but it's like a dark night of the soul, like where I'm gonna be honest, it feels like you're forced, but that's not like the best word. But but your soul is forced to
there's a pull. Just like you were pulled towards the herbalism. It's like you said, it was like you were returning back to something that your soul already knew. And I mean, and that is a divine calling, because let me tell you, all of us don't have that gift. I'm one of them. I can't. I'm horrible. Everything that comes to my house dies. So yes. So yeah, that is a calling that you were definitely brought back into, and I love that. And so herbalism and root working is getting away from what I understand, this westernized way of the pharmaceutical industry, but understanding the healing properties that the herbs and the natural aspects of what we're offered can work for us. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And root work is also a divination practice when it comes to spirituality. So root work can be done when there's many. It's kind of hard to generalize it because it can be done in many like different cases. Like I remember when we were sick when I was a kid, like we had the Mongolier tea, you know what I'm saying? That was a form of root work, because that's what our people use. Like it was nothing you could buy in the store when you were sick. And I think it's another reason why, like now I'm very like, I don't like going to hospitals. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I have this aversion to Western medicine, because I can literally recall every time that I've been, it has not been helpful, you know, like at all. But herbalism, root work, I feel like, again, like I love how you call them invitations. Like when it came to the dark nights of the soul, I think we get invitations to go back many, many times. You know what I'm saying? Like through many means, and like, just, I don't know, herbalism keeps coming up in my head, and it's like to go deeper, a little bit deeper with that. And it's like, I believe that, again, the chaos and the residue of what we experience, like the ailments that we experience because of all the things, you know what I'm saying? There's a root to that, you know what I'm saying? There's something that I think is missing in how Western folks how they even talk about food, how they manage food, all of the things. So of course we're going to have problems with, like, you know, our food to people pipeline, is, if that even is a thing. But yeah,
I agree. And how we pathologize the experiences that people are having, as opposed to looking at us holistically and what we're consuming, not just in terms of what we're eating, but spiritually. And the people that we have around us, all of that plays a part. So within those practices, the last thing I'd love for you to share is just, I think you've spoken about it a little bit already, but how do you see your decolonization journey playing out in your practices of root working and herbalism?
I see it because I know I always start from a place of reclamation, like wanting to reclaim it, because I know that it is mine. You know, knowing, not from like an egotistical place or like I'm Black, it's mine. Like, no, but like divinely, it is mine. You know, like we are, like, we all should be using like cannabis and have access to cannabis and shouldn't have to pay for it. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Medical cards shouldn't even have to be a thing. Exactly. We should be able to grow it without parameters. That thinking like that, I think, breaks down this box of only people with power and money and influence have the possibility to dream up our world, you know, and that is so not true. You know, so not true. I think because we've seen the BS of it all, we can reimagine what life looks like when we prioritize holistic medicine and holistic wellness and, social emotional learning in schools and giving them a balanced meal from the beginning, like when they get out of the womb, you know what I'm saying? Children. I see it. I question everything already, Ina. I'm gonna be honest.
As you should.
Like, I question it all, and
we have to.
Look, and I have found myself within this last month, like falling into, I will say the rut or the hole of oppression and just sitting. And it's like, no, I don't have to. I could be in it, like be of the world, and not want to participate in certain ways. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm doing my best to be more active. When it comes to supporting people in their mutual aids, speaking truth when like false things have been spoken. Like if I can add some light or bring another perspective, challenging myself to do so, because I strongly believe too, it starts with individuals. Like, not everybody wants to be liberated because not everybody believes that there's something to be liberated from. So I want to do my best to spark something where people also know that, hey, wake up, just wake up. You know what I'm saying? Even if it's just a little bit of water, then everybody don't want the waterfall, but it's just a little bit of water.
Just a sprinkle.
Like I feel like, so I think I covered what I do and my responsibility, and then my personal challenges, because it's not easy, you know what I'm saying? It's not easy at all, but it has to be a practice, and bit by bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as we wrap up, Jasmine, where and how can we find you? We know that you published 2 books already. Just anything that you can share, and what, Black joy is resistance. So what is bringing you joy these days?
Yes. Okay. Black joy is resistance. It is. So my birthday was last week, and I have
happy belated birthday.
Thank you. 10/10. So I've been like on this wave of just joy and gratitude, like doing everything in gratitude. So that's how I'm finding joy these days.
Ooh, I love that.
I'm seeing my good sister friends this weekend, and we're gonna have some girl time, do some things.
Love it.
That's gonna bring me joy. And then finally, if you're interested in poetry, my books are on Amazon, Ma's Words and Scraps to Food, and you'll see my government name on there, Jasmine Babineaux. I'm also on LinkedIn, Jasmine Babineaux. I'm open to all types of collaborations. I do workshops. I'm definitely interested in expanding what I do, like to more people. Instagram, my name is B Jasmine, literally the letter B, Jasmine. Okay. Instead of the A, it's the number 4.
Okay.
And so yeah, that's how folks can connect with me.
Thank you so much, Jasmine. It has been beyond a pleasure to have you on. We learned so much, and thank you for your authenticity and just being open and sharing your personal journey to decolonization. I know that the podcast community has learned a ton from you. So thank you. You're super special. You are our first guest. And you just set the tone for all of the subsequent episodes that are going to come behind. They got some big shoes to fill. So thank you.
Thank you for having me, Ina. Keep shining. I love you. Do your thing and live in your brilliance.
Thank you. That means everything.
Listen, I love your voice too. When I was like, you have a podcast, I was like, this is it, honey. So thank you.
And I'm like, I didn't know